night before Christmas Eve and bad weather.
Yeah.
That's okay, because this group may not even go an entire hour and a half tonight. Because I'm running up against the Christmas, what do you want to call it? Christmas deadlines, I guess is a way to say it.
The inevitable collision.
I realized today that if I'm going to get people gifts, I actually have to go buy things.
Yeah.
I thought that it would just sort of happen, but that doesn't happen. That's weird how that works. Right, we are going to get started. People can join us as they come in. I have topics like I always do, but I understand we might want to go over a situation, if you will, and kind of use it as and I think that everybody can learn. A lot of times this stuff is similar, unfortunately, across the circumstances. So let's just pretend we're going through it and we're talking as if it's just me and you. What we're going to do is we're going to go through a particular situation that a family's dealing with. So try to apply it to anything that you're dealing with in your life. And I would just start with how can I help? And it's usually two different things that people want to know. What can we do about this, or why is this happening? It's usually one of those two, or sometimes it's both of those things. So Carol, is there, just start wherever you like, and if there's either those questions or if there's just something more burning that you want to.
Okay. Well, 2 weeks ago, when I was here and had a major blow up with Jeff.
Yeah.
Having come out of 30 days of rehab, 10 days home, stumbled, ended up back in the ER for 12 hours, discharged to Carolina Center for detox for 6 days or something like that.
A week.
Got out with the plan like he had from Black Bear. This is what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
But wanted to go back to his apartment, which, as far as we're concerned, that's the worst thing in the world. He lives alone, and it's depressing, and he's alone. It's so bad. Did that. I don't know when he started drinking. He went back to his apartment on last Wednesday. And it has been hell.
So basically, goes to rehab and is there for 30 days. And does he complete the rehab?
Yes.
Yep.
And as far as you guys know, when he was at the rehab, was everything pretty copacetic? Was everything okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
You didn't get any bad reports. You didn't get kicked out early.
No.
And so kind of proceeded through it normally, I guess.
He came home and did great. No, he didn't drink for 10 days.
Okay.
He came home with a plan of action. IOP.
Yeah.
Meetings here, his doctors, blah, blah, blah. Trish, right. And when we were there, we had gone for family meetings, and they had basically said to us, and I think maybe I misinterpreted how they meant it, that it's hands off. That when he's with you, no, you don't question, did you go, did you call, when are you going, it's on him. So we did.
Yeah.
Because, enabling.
So they told you to basically let him run his recovery. And we've talked about that in here before. That's a very common piece of advice. You guys stay out of it, let him run. Okay.
Which, okay, we went with it. But I find that also hard because, if it's a husband-wife situation or something else, a different family dynamic than mom and dad with a 35-year-old son.
Yeah.
The people there would ask, well, what about this or that? We'll clean out everything from the house, and you have a right to ask them, did you go to your meeting, or I'll take you to the meeting. And I felt like with this dynamic, it was hands off.
Yeah.
Which makes it kind of hard. You're at our house, you're living there.
Right.
Shouldn't he have to be responsible if you're staying with us?
Right.
To do that. But we did it. And 10 days later, he went home and started drinking.
Okay. And that started this spiral
Yeah.
that you guys are dealing with right now. Yeah.
So, ER visit, 12 hours, discharge to Carolina Center, again, with the same plan of action, IOP and counselors and blah, blah, blah. And of course, we're the enablers and you do this, you know, that whole kind of,
Yeah.
don't, you know, offer to say you wanna stop and get groceries, don't mom, don't, I gotta.
Just
do
stay out of it.
Yeah.
Basically, leave me alone. I'll get this figured out. I
Yeah.
got this, you know, it's
Yeah.
none of your business. I'll take care of it. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, was
So-
he saying that or were they?
No, he was.
That's him, that's him, no one tells Jeff what to do.
Well, and you also get into a situation where if he's 35,
Right.
so the older the child is, the more defensive they're going to be whenever anybody starts asking questions. You know, whether it's mom, dad, husband, wife, or whatever. You can get away with that probably easier for 25 or under, 26 and under. It's going to be tough. He's 35. He's going to get very defensive and think to himself, "Wow, this is ridiculous. I'm a grown man," all that kind of stuff. So he's reacting in a way that's relatively predictable, right? Yeah. And you're reacting in a way that's predictable and actually natural too, because for good reasons you're worried.
Right.
Right, and he had, talking about the seizure.
Yeah, there's real stuff going on.
Yeah.
There's real stuff. This isn't, you're not making up potential problems. There's
No.
real stuff.
He,
Yeah.
he tried to quit cold turkey before rehab, and that's why he ended up in rehab. Brought him to the hospital, he had a grand mal seizure.
Yeah.
He still has problems with his tongue from it. So that's the big concern.
So let's start. Let's stop right there and just ask you a couple questions. So what do your instincts? We'll start with you, Carol. What do your instincts tell you to do in a situation like this? What is your gut telling you? Is it telling you stay out of it? Is it telling you go take care of it? Like, where are you at with it?
I will tell you, as of yesterday, as of the past few days, because it's been bad, and he gets nasty.
Yeah.
He gets really mean and ugly,
Yeah.
and which is kind of good because it pisses me off.
Right.
And then I go, you know what? Fine.
Yeah.
Whatever. I get angry rather than scared. So that's where it's been the past few days.
Okay.
He was very hurtful to his brothers
Yeah.
recently, very bad. And I always go to bat for him with them and say, listen, you have to understand this. You have to. And I'm to the point where I'm not anymore because, you know, okay, when he's drunk or high or whatever, not that it's an excuse, but I understand where that is coming from. But when he was sober and clean at Black Bear and then he knows right from wrong.
Yeah, and I think, okay, so if we can camp out right there, because part of this is that you probably know what to do. You probably know what to do, and when you get angry and when he's insulting and he's mean, or when any of us are like that whenever we're using, it is easier for our family to say, okay, well then F you.
Yeah.
If you want to act like that, then you can't have it both ways. You can't tell me stay out of your life and then call me up and want my help and stuff. And so, and the truth is, when a person's acting like that, that is what you want to do. Now, and when we talk in here about staying connected, and we talk in here about not automatically cutting people off, remember, we always qualify it with unless they're treating you like crap.
Right.
I mean, if they are actively mean and threatening and out of control, or even clearer, hey, leave me the F alone. Well, okay,
And
I'll
that's what we
leave you
do.
alone.
That's what we do now.
Yeah.
When he gets like that, I've told him, if you're mean and nasty, if you're talking terribly, I will not communicate with you. And so it ends.
So it ends, and then how do you get brought back into it then? Because there's a crisis? Does something typically happen? Or how do you think it would go if I had a magic wand and I was able to say, like, you're going to totally detach from this, and you're not going to go over there, and you're not going to call? How do you think it would play out?
He texts us then.
Yeah.
He'll start texting us.
That's the part that is not fair.
Right.
You can't say on one hand, leave me alone.
Right.
And on the other hand, where are you? I need you.
Well, the other day he hit me with contract, Mom. Remember contract? And I'm thinking, are you kidding me?
What does that mean?
That's the contract that was put together in Black Bear. Yes, where this is what I will do, this is what he will do, and this is what we need to do as a family.
Yeah.
And one of the things with me was, and I admit it, you call too much, you text too much, you know, you're constantly checking up, and when
Yeah.
you do, you're asking, are you drinking, are you drunk, you know.
Yes.
And so I said, you know what, you're right. So since Black Bear, I don't do it. I
Well,
wait
that's
till
good.
he contacts me.
Yeah.
So we're there. Where now I will say, this afternoon things came around, and I can always tell when Jeff's starting to come around, when he's like, okay, I gotta get a grip here. I gotta change. I help.
Yeah.
And that's where he is right now.
Yeah.
He reached out to his youngest brother and apologized.
Okay.
And he told us the other day, I will not come home for Christmas. I don't want to be there. And I said, okay.
Well, this is where you go with it. So if you start to say, what do we do? And you start to take stock of the situation, you guys actually have a better grasp on this than it may appear, because you know, you've gone through these steps and these actions, and you've been coming to this group, and you went to Black Bear, and you've heard a lot of stuff. And, you know, it's not like, how do we do this or what do we do? It's, once we do it, how do I live with this until he decides to make a change? Because you're in a classic situation where the best advice anybody could give you really would be to detach from that situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's 35 is different than he's 20.
Right.
But also, not even, and beyond that, is people change as they go along in their use. And I know this happened to me too. Toward the end of it, and I feel like this is a hallmark symptom of what I would consider like real alcoholism versus maybe like heavy drinking. You just get mean.
Yeah.
You get mean, and you can't, nobody can satisfy you, and it doesn't matter what you say. You could agree or disagree, or you could be on his side or against him, and he's going to argue with you and tell you how you suck anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
And I did that. And I got to tell you, like, that is when it's gotten to the point, and that may be why he's reaching out and stuff, because that is whenever you do get to the point where you start to realize, like, this is just not even working anymore, man. I can't even get a relief from this alcohol anymore. And as weird as it sounds, if that's where he's getting, that's a good thing, because that's what the world has called hitting bottom for a long time. Like, hitting bottom is a little bit misunderstood. Hitting bottom doesn't necessarily mean you know, going to jail or nearly dying, because many people go to jail or nearly die and continue to use happily.
Right.
It's whenever it stops working.
Right.
And you start to realize, I got no solutions
And
here.
he has said that
Yeah.
recently several times, that, you know, I can't do this. This is bad. And
I got one question. Is this like the first attempt that you?
no.
So the behavior's been going on for,
Years.
okay.
years.
Okay. I just wasn't sure about
Yeah.
that.
Years.
Which is also, I mean, also common, right? And his age range, believe it or not, is right around when people start to change. If you look at these statistics around the average, if you talk to people about how old were you when you got this, the average age is around 34, 35.
Okay.
So what happens is, as you get older, your body starts to respond differently to these substances.
Mm-hmm.
Your lifestyle starts to change. The people you used to party with aren't partying the way they used to. Other people are getting married, moving on with life.
He's alone.
You're alone a lot, and it's not frat boy time anymore. And all of a sudden you start to like look at this and say, this sucks. And that's a good place for a person to be. That's when the change starts to happen. The problem for the family is, how do you deal with this, knowing that also bad things happen, car accidents happen, seizures happen when people are drinking too much? That's the rub here. You guys are already doing the right thing. It's how do you deal with this?
And I think we both feel that at this point, you know, a 30-day rehab is not going to do it for Jeff. This has been a lifestyle way too long, that he needs to be somewhere long-term.
Yeah.
It's somewhere that's going to that he's going to be, and he's going to have to change
Yeah.
his total lifestyle.
So you get into these situations where you look at, so think of it this way, think of Black Bear Lodge as a clinical treatment center that costs a good deal, has insurance, you pay for it that way, it has therapists, it has doctors, it has nurses, and that's good stuff, and people go there and they complete that. But then there's another type of program, and they call themselves a rehab. They're not technically a rehab because insurance doesn't pay for them, but they typically cost $5,000 or $2 to $7,000 in that range. And they're longer term, they're technically recovery residences, but they're longer term programs and they're more affordable. And they usually start off at 30 days and then they transition people into month and month and month. And they make them get jobs on the back end. There's a program called Salvation Oaks that I'm a fan of. There's a program called Owl's Nest that I'm a fan of. Both of these are here in South Carolina, one in Florence, one in Greenwood. The good news is they're just much more affordable. You know what I mean?
Right.
People can put together, I think, $1,600 to get it started at Salvation Oaks and that kind of thing, and maybe like $5 for. Don't quote me on the prices, but the point is, I don't recommend he go back and get the whole like psychiatric workup and the nurses and the doctors. Get in a safe place where you can be like there for a lot longer.
Are those one of the things we run up against with Jeff? And eventually, I know it will change, but anything that has religion heavy, he's like, oh.
No, they're not.
Because
No.
a friend told me about one in Anderson. What did they say the name of that one?
Haven of Wrath.
That is a religious program. That is a Christ-oriented program.
Okay.
That's not what these programs are. They're going to be 12-step oriented,
Which is fine.
but they're not going to be religious in any kind of way.
Okay.
What about Freedom House? Is that in the name of it?
That's not going to do what she needs.
Okay.
See, Freedom House is great, but it's only going to do that 30-day.
All right.
They do residential with treatment. Okay, so
We
it's
need him to go live somewhere.
well, one of the advantages going to a place like Salvation Oaks or Owl's Nest is, or anywhere like that. I'm just naming those two programs because I know them. Is that a lot of times they transition the guys themselves. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to leave that one program and go to another.
It's all within.
It's all within the program, and it's also all within the same type of guys that he was hanging out with when he was in the 30-day program. And we can help you get hooked. You know what I mean? It'd be like people he already knew.
That's good because we hooked up with these guys at Black Bear and formed this kinship with these guys.
I think that if you continue doing what you're doing and he starts to move toward this, I would recommend that you push him in a direction like this. And because he could actually like wind up going there and liking it.
Yeah.
Because if he got a kinship with those guys, he'll get that there too.
Right.
Because between me and you is gonna be a lot of the same type of stuff.
Right.
And then he can carry you through. That's what would work.
Okay.
Now the question is, how do you get him to that point?
Right.
And it might be that you have to just wait this out a little bit and continue doing what you're doing.
And he is working with Trisha.
He is talking to Trisha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And every other day they're touching base and he's keeping in touch. He told me yesterday she's a better mother than you. And I went, well, thanks, son.
Did you tell Trish that?
No.
She's
I
okay.
burst into tears.
Well,
My
I
own
mean,
son's
that's
here.
just ridiculous. Okay. All right, dude. She doesn't have to like come get you in the middle of the night either, and she doesn't. She's not paying the bills, and
But he knows how to hit where it hurts.
Well, so one of the things that you would do is to try, and this is a really good point, like around detachment, is to try to, how do you not allow him to push those buttons? Do you guys all get this? So this is even beyond your situation. This is in general.
Right.
We really do know how, when we're in the middle of that, we know what to say to turn this into an argument and a fight and to hurt and all that other stuff.
Make victim.
Yeah, and how can you detach from that and make sure that you don't engage in that? That's part of the challenge.
Can I read something to you?
Yeah.
Show Carol. He attacked our youngest son verbally over the past few days. Like, I didn't see it. Our other son told us, and it was horrible.
Yeah.
And our son was, the two other boys, they balance each other. One is mad and never going to talk to him again, and the other one's,
We gotta give him a break.
Yeah,
We gotta help him
So
out.
it's quite interesting. But when we were coming tonight, I asked the other boys to come, and the youngest had to work. But he called me and he said, "Mom, I want to send something to Jeff, but I need to read it to you. I need to make sure." So if you don't mind, I want
No, go ahead.
because this is a 22-year-old.
Yeah.
It blew my mind.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is how you handle it.
Yeah.
This is what you do. And he said, excuse the French, Jeffrey, seriously, I love you to fucking death. I love you to death, dude. But this shit has got to stop. Man, I'm at my limit, bro. I love you, but damn it, man. My skin is breaking out. My heart is constantly racing. I want you healthy. I want you back. And you are so capable. You are so capable of greatness. Be great. We are all always in your corner. But let me say and let me ask. It's the holiday season, Jeff. All I want is you back. I want a gift. I don't want a gift. I don't want money. I want my brother back. If you can find it in your heart to maybe try or even entertain the thought of going to your IOP, that's all I ask. That's all I want. But it's only if you feel up to it. Bottom line, Jeff, I want my brother back before 2020, not 6 feet under. You swore you would never do that to me, and we keep our promises. I love you, bro.
Yeah.
That to me, for a 22-year-old to be able to talk to his brother who has just been horrendous to him is mind-boggling.
Yeah, so what is your strategy? And I'm not even saying you need to figure this out right now.
Right.
And again, I think anybody in the room, you can put this through your own situation. What is your strategy, your personal strategy to not respond and to not get caught up in the inevitable bullshit, for lack of a better term, that's going to come your way?
We don't.
So you step back, you don't respond at all? Is that?
No, I mean, I will respond a bit, but then I stop it and say, Jeff, I'm not doing this. He called us, we were out Friday night, and he called us.
So,
and I answered it, and he started going off, and I said, no, I won't talk to you. I told you, if you're mean, you're swearing, you're nasty, I won't talk to you. Well, fuck you. I hung up on him.
Carol, I don't understand what the problem is. They're hitting it out of the park. What's the problem?
Because the mom is still very worried.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the
She's gonna
thing,
have another seizure.
like you're handling this like literally 100% the way you should handle it.
Here's the immediate thing. He wasn't coming home for Christmas. He's now saying, I want to come home for Christmas.
Oh,
You'll
okay.
keep me alive if I don't. I said, we want you to. We want you to come home. We want you sober.
Okay.
I don't know how his drink is vodka.
Yep.
So my concern is, because I said, talk to Tricia. Maybe you need to go for medical help to get through this so you're safe. Maybe you need to go to Carolina Center, and I'm getting no on that.
Yep.
So how can we make sure that he's home for Christmas safely?
That's a fantastic question, and that's actually like so common. I was going to talk about this tonight because this time of the year this comes up quite a bit, and it's always, there's no perfect answer to this. A couple questions or a couple things to think about. Sometimes when people with alcohol, sometimes when people start drinking, family members are able to tell really, really quickly, and then sometimes people can get by with it for a minute. What's it like in your situation? Do you feel like sometimes moms know like immediately? It's like you're thinking about drinking. I can tell, and
You can see in his mood.
Oh, you can tell.
a lot of times you can tell pretty much immediately.
Yeah. You can tell.
Yeah.
But
So-
I mean, just going back to the, responding and not responding. Just for example, last night, when we were home, he texted me something about one of the games, the football game. And then he said, oh, can you take me to Publix, get some, so I get some for dinner, And I said, yeah, so I went over to his apartment and I picked him up. And he had been drinking, like I don't think he was in the position to go walking around at the grocery store,
Yeah.
So I said to him, just stay in the car and I'll run in and get it for you, And at first he said no, and then as we were ready to park, he said, okay, yeah, you go and get it for me. So I got a few things, and said he had food in his house, and then brought him back. But if he's acting reasonably or asks for a favor, to take me to the store to get something to eat, that we'll respond to. But when it's this nasty stuff.
Yeah, and the problem is like how quickly does it go from like okay to nasty?
Yeah.
Because you guys don't want to have your whole holiday to be,
Right.
and that's the idea is
And it can go like that.
how do we handle
It can
that?
go like that.
And I'm not telling you not to have them there,
Right.
but you almost have to have a plan, which would be
Right.
you know, you might even want to say it to him, like, what are we gonna do?
Well, I tried to, and that's when I said, you know, talk to Trisha, or maybe safely so you can be here, you have a few days, you know,
Yeah.
and he said, stop.
Well, then don't come to the house.
I mean.
Yeah, I mean, at a certain point in time, what you have going on, and this is have you ever heard the terminology where people will talk about somebody who's in active addiction as being very, very self-centered, very, very egotistical, very, very unrealistic and narcissistic and stuff? That's what this is playing out. It's not actually narcissism, but it's totally 100% unreasonable view of the world.
Absolutely.
Like, okay, dude, then don't come to my house.
Yeah.
But the problem is it's going to break your heart, because saying, you know, you can't come over, or it could break your heart.
It's my bigger concern is it'll break his heart. As hard as it seems to believe, we are a very, very close family.
Oh, I believe that.
Very close. And him not being with the family will destroy him. And he realized once he's set in the stand,
Why don't you go to his
I'm not
house?
coming.
Why doesn't everyone go to his house so y'all can leave if he starts acting up?
Oh, I can't imagine what his apartment looks like right now.
Okay, or go to a restaurant together or something.
Well,
like, part of it is how do you have control to get away from that so that it's not miserable.
I think we would say if he was miserable, he would have to leave.
He has to leave.
Yeah. If he comes and he's difficult, we're going to tell him you can't stay.
Yeah.
I think what he's trying to do is sober up, and that's my concern. He's trying to.
Are you worried about the physical part of that?
Yes, I'm worried about him not having medical help to do so.
So how long do you think, like, at the most he could be drinking would be what, like a week, right?
Yeah, not even. So
Since Friday.
I'm thinking Thursday.
It would be
Friday.
really hard to, like, be physical danger after that short of a period of time.
Even though he'd had prior seizures? And
No, I mean,
risk?
I'd have to know, like, when the prior, like, what was the circumstance of the prior seizures. But typically, you don't need to be.
Long time of been.
Yeah, you don't need to be detoxed after drinking for a week.
Even if you're banging down vodka on a.
Even if you're banging down vodka on a day, I mean, that's something that typically takes a period of time.
Because he did say this last time, Mom, what I drank this time when he ended up at the ER was nothing like before when he had the seizure.
Yeah, and people will go to the ER not necessarily to get detox, but like, you could have somebody go to the ER from drinking one time, right? Because they drank too much that night. Like, Carol goes out tonight, she has too much to drink, I send her to the ER, not because she needs detox, but because she needs to make sure she's gonna be okay.
Yeah. See, his blood pressure is through the roof when he drinks.
But that's different than physically detoxed. And so physically detoxed is you drink so much for so long that your body becomes acclimated. When you don't have it, you have a seizure. Okay. That's not going to happen after a week. Okay. It's just not. I've never heard of that happening. What's that?
Even if he goes cold turkey?
Even if he goes cold turkey, I've never heard of that happening. Just because that's just not long enough for your body to get Now, he could have to go to the ER because he drank way too much, and you know, it's like almost like an alcohol poisoning kind of situation.
I don't think that's the case either.
Yeah. Not eating for a few days.
Yeah, you can get into other physical issues that aren't detox issues. And the answer to all of that is that, so if I was talking to your son and, you know, he just called our hotline or something, he was saying, I'm trying to figure out what to do, Rich. I would say, you can quit, you know, but if you start to feel bad, you need to get in the car and go to the hospital. Okay. You know, I wouldn't diagnose it as a situation where I would say you have to go to Carolina or you have to go to Phoenix or you have to go. Now, if it goes on for a month, if it goes on even for 2 weeks, maybe.
Well, okay, so it was less than a week this last time when he ended up in the emergency room. He was at Carolina Center for 6 days. Then this time
Thursday,
Wednesday, and now it's Monday, and I don't know when he started drinking. He went back to his apartment on Wednesday, so it could have maybe not even a week yet.
So how it works with detox is you have you literally have what's called a clinically indicated withdrawal scale, if you will, and they go and they take your blood pressure and they look at your physical symptoms and they ask you about how you're feeling, and there's all these different things that they can look at from a medical perspective that will get you a score that will have you say, Carol, you need to come on in because you're at risk for detox, for withdrawal, syndrome, which is different than you're so hammered, you're a danger to yourself, you could fall down and get hurt, you could literally like walk out in front of traffic, or maybe you're just gonna asphyxiate because you're gonna choke on your own vomit. That also will get somebody in the hospital, but they're two different dynamics, and either one of them can be very dangerous, but I don't think a week is going to get you to the
So
point.
A bad hangover.
So maybe that's why when he was in the ER last week, again, it's the addict part of it, I know it, he was all, I need Ativan, and he's been on Ativan because of depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
And they didn't give him much, and I was like, why, if he's gonna have, seizure, but he hadn't been drinking that long.
They probably
And
like,
she asked him questions and said, I have to go through this chart to score you.
that's what it was, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. What hospital was he at?
Memorial,
Was anybody from Favor there?
yes.
Okay.
Oh, what's the fellow's name?
Greg, Britt.
Britt.
So and that's what they do. They'll go through that score and then they'll grab somebody from Favor and say, come on back.
So when they did that and they weren't giving him a lot of Ativan, it was because there really wasn't that.
He wasn't in danger of detoxing.
Okay.
You will go, you'll always, where alcohol is concerned, insurance companies and sometimes medical people, they'll always be conservative with alcohol.
So he needs to hear this because he like us,
Thought you can get it if you're like in
was
there.
very concerned that he's going to have a seizure again.
Yeah, well, I get that part of it too. I understand. Like I'm
No,
not.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but he needs to realize.
And if you have a seizure, you're gonna be scared.
Right.
And so.
But if the chances are that he's not going to have a seizure now, and he's afraid to stop drinking because he's afraid he's going to have a seizure, but if that's not the case,
I think you should call Trish, and I think you should talk to her about it. I think you should tell Trish she can consult with me, but I haven't talked to him, so I'm not making an official recommendation. But what I'm telling you is it's very rare that somebody's going to need to be detoxed after drinking for a week, especially after going. If you think about the last 2 months of his life, all right, he was in rehab for 30 days, right?
Right.
He was in a facility, not a facility for what, a week.
Right. Yeah.
So that's 5 weeks out of, like, the most he could have been drinking was like 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks.
Since rehab.
Yeah, so that, I don't even know how that's possible, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I don't even think you could. I don't think you could actually be going through withdrawal. Now, anything's possible, right? Because people's bodies are different. But he's still relatively young, too. 35 is not, you know what I mean? Like, that's not so much that his body's not going to be able to hold up. Here's the real bottom line thing. He's got to get it together, man. You don't, like the deal is you don't have seizures without having a problem. Do you get it?
Mm-hmm.
And he knows this, and I know he knows this, but part of it is, like, I never had seizures from coming off alcohol, and I drank like a beast.
Yeah.
You get where I'm coming from? So you got to go at it hard.
Right.
And so his fear around that is good. It's a good, healthy fear. The deal with this is that it's the next step now. It's either you're going to go, like, we got to get you in a long-term place, man, where you can, like, have an opportunity to get with people and spend time to get your life back together, or you're going to have to jump in hardcore into an IOP, favor meetings, AA meetings, all of the above. It sounds like he's moving toward that a little bit. But it sounds like he's so, what's the word? Probably, like, if you really got in his head, he's so scared about actually, like, taking the plunge and really letting go of this stuff.
I think he is, and he lives with a lot of demons. He
Yeah.
lives with a lot of his past and what he's done.
Yeah.
And that he's in debt, and that he's 35, and this is where he is, and
Yeah.
He can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. There's nothing good.
Yeah, see, that's where he's got to get it. Like, he's got to understand that, like, that part I can guarantee can get better for him. And that's why, but he will only ever hear that if he's around us.
Right.
He will only ever hear that if he comes to one of our meetings. Like, I guarantee that can get cleaned up. I had bankruptcy. I had anything you can think of that is a financial consequence of using. I suffered that. You know, I didn't have any degrees. I barely got through college, right? And so my point is like we can all make a comeback.
Right.
That's pretty much a guarantee. The deal is, in his head, he doesn't know that. When he's sitting on his couch drinking, he doesn't think of that. When he's talking to you, he's not going to hear that from you.
Right.
And again, I know you guys know this stuff, so the plan would be to keep pushing him toward that. Now, the immediate issue is, what do you do about Christmas, right? What do you do about him coming over?
I feel better knowing that my greatest concern is,
He can quit drinking.
that's my greatest concern. If he quits drinking and comes over, his immediate health, his immediate seizure or whatnot.
Right.
If that's not a major issue, then
What is your concern about that?
About Christmas? Well, first of all, that he doesn't come over drunk, for one thing.
Yeah, that's a big
You know,
deal. Yeah, you don't want it to be.
Because, his brothers and us are very understanding. And if he stops now and he works on cleaning things up, I think it can be a good gathering. If he comes over and he's still into it, then I don't know that things will go well. Let's put it that way.
How many people have ever had? I mean, I lived through Christmas after Christmas after Christmas that was ruined by somebody's drinking. All my time growing up, me when I got older, you know, a person getting hammered can just ruin Christmas for everybody. It's dealing with a drunk person is almost impossible.
Yeah.
You know,
how do you get him out of there?
How do you get them out of there? How do you have a conversation? So that's what you got to.
That's
you
why
gotta
we
almost-
told our daughter, no, you're not.
And that's where your other sons are going to be influenced with this, right?
Right.
And so part of it is there a way to manage that? Almost like, what do? Do you go over to his apartment first and bring him to the house?
right,
And if he's under the influence, no go,
right.
you know? Because once you get there, man, it's just like game over if a person's...
Yeah.
Have you ever tried to like actually have a productive conversation with somebody who's good and tuned up?
Oh,
It's nearly impossible,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's like this circular conversation. You don't. They say the same thing over and over again. Then they get heated, and then the next thing you know, they're screaming at you.
You're calling the police.
Yeah. So that's what you have to watch out for.
I mean, the fact that he's saying this and that he's thinking that.
That's good. I mean,
Yeah.
that's good. At least he's thinking about.
I think you got to. I mean, I think you got to take a. So my recommendation would be like you take a very strong look at it, and you take your time with it, and you have another conversation, and I think you're totally 100% right with saying something like, how are we going to make sure this doesn't turn into a disaster? And if he doesn't want to entertain that conversation, I don't know what you do about that, but you can't be naive about it either.
Well, like I said to him, we want you here, we want you sober.
Yep.
It's simple.
But you can absolutely say that he can quit drinking. Like you can say like that's not going to be what you think. I don't think you can say I don't think that's going to be what you think it's going to be. But also here's another thing, and I'll throw this out there for any of us dealing with this. So understand that at any given time, man, like people, you can go to the emergency room. You got to go to the emergency room if you're starting to feel sick, right? And I think that like that's the other part of it. He's not going to have a seizure that's going to be a grand mal seizure just out of nowhere, and he's going to die from it. I just don't see how that's even in the realm of possibility. But he might start feeling crappy.
Right.
You come off of alcohol, almost like a hangover on steroids, sort of.
And he's done that at home before.
Yeah.
He's come home before when he's been really bad, and he just kind of works through it at home. And
Yeah.
drinks the orange juice and gets the chocolates and
And deals with it.
Sleeps
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
And gone through the shivers, and he's done that at home before.
Yeah.
The one with the seizure was like he's never been before. That was a first.
Yeah. He could also, another thing he could do, and this is where him talking to one of us would be good, or if he called the hotline or he talked to Trish, he could even do it in a much more sensible way. You could literally, like, let's pretend just for sake of argument, a person's drinking tonight, getting drunk tonight.
Right.
You could just simply tomorrow drink less.
And I'm
And you
wondering
could kinda
if
like-
that's what he's doing.
You could taper yourself almost.
I'm kind of wondering, because of the conversation today and saying I want to be home for Christmas, reaching out to his brother
Yeah.
to mend that fence. clearly saying, I need to be home, if I'm not home for Christmas, it's gonna eat me
And then
up.
I think the other thing to do would be, okay, so you think about it as you get through Christmas, right? So and you clearly are gonna have to continue to talk about this and figure that out a little bit, right? But then the second thing would be, when can you seize the moment and have this next level conversation with him, maybe after the holidays or something, where it goes to, like, maybe you share some information like I just shared with you about these programs that exist where.
And that's where I'm hoping Trish will, because from me, from us,
He resists anything they suggest.
Well, then it's got to be, well, you know,
Don't
does
tell
he
me what
actually
to do.
talk to Trish?
He has talked to Trish.
Okay, good.
if it's not court ordered, I don't have to do it.
Yeah, just always keep that in mind that, like, people say really, really weird stuff when they're in that state of mind. I mean, I'm a relatively reasonable person. I think we would all agree, but I was capable of just, 100% denying reality, for lack of a better term. And one of the interesting things about at the end of my addiction, and I think this may be where your son's at to a certain degree, is I was so miserable, unconsciously miserable, like, it just, nothing made me okay.
Yes.
Nothing was ever okay. Like, it was one thing to be, like, interrogated by my wife and be arguing with her and, like, pissed off because she was, like, in my business. That at least made a little bit of sense. But I was just, like, hated everybody. And what I didn't realize is I hated myself. And I didn't realize that, like, I couldn't stand the way I felt. So it was just like everybody sucked. And until I got, like, into recovery, and it didn't take me long to figure that out. That's actually one of the things that kept me in recovery early on, was I realized that, like, oh, okay, I see. I can be happy again. I can be reasonable again, you know?
I think that's very much Jeff. We would agree.
Yeah.
That he hates himself.
Well, and that's where you can't do anything about that. And if you're in a situation where your family member gets to that point where they're so, like, kind of deep in self-recrimination and just in their own head like that, it's really hard as a family to try to do anything with that. And other than set your boundaries, and I think you're doing a great job. You must have a fantastic family coach.
Yes.
Yes. No, I really do. Like, because Carol reached out and said, could we talk about this tonight? And I said, but the truth is, I think you guys are on point. I really do. I think that you're probably, like, further along with this than you think, because, that Black Bear Lodge is a good rehab. I mean, he got a lot when he was there, whether you know it or not, or whether he knows it or not, he got a lot.
Yeah.
And, he's clearly, like, if he went back into Carolina, you know what I mean? Like, the wheels are spinning. It's just, how do you get him to that next thing?
And the fact that he made it 10 days after Black Bear.
He isn't doing anything. That's the other thing. To Frank's question about, is this the first time? The other good news here, it isn't like he's been trying for 30 years or for 10 years to get this figured out.
Right.
It's all new too.
We have been trying to get him to figure it out for.
Yeah.
He's actually grieving losing alcohol right now.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, he is grieving not being able, thinking, well, damn, you mean I gotta do this?
Yeah, you have this subconscious thing in the back of your mind where so it's like, that this isn't gonna work, right? So you hit this picture, like, alcohol has been kind of your best friend for a lot of years. And you start to get to this point where you realize you're gonna have to break up. And you don't really want to face it, and so it provokes you. It's angry. You're angry about it. And you subconsciously protect the alcohol almost. And that's why people will slip. That's why people will make these mistakes. That's why they will talk themselves into drinking when they know that they shouldn't drink. I mean, you ever hear, like, the term denial? Think about this for a minute. The term denial technically means that I don't know I have a problem. That's really what the term means. It's literally like, I am psychologically unaware that my alcoholism is a problem. That is very rarely the case. I don't know that I've really ever met somebody, by the time they get to me, they know. It's not that they don't, it's that they don't want to change that. It's not that they don't know it. They know it's a problem. They're just unable to fathom life without
They're
it.
trying to be in denial of denial. So,
It's like I'm in denial of the fact that I can live without it is what I'm in denial
Right.
of. I'm not in denial of it being a problem. I'm in denial that there's a way to do life without it. Until you put 60 days together or 90 days together or 180 days together, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I didn't realize this. Carol?
Rich, what do you think about maybe after Christmas, a family meeting with Trish and I and the family and
I think you guys would have to, I think as parents, you guys need to,
the Salvation Oaks program or what?
well, I think they need to dictate that.
Okay.
And I think you guys need to use your judgment on whether you think it would be better for you to be there or just for Trish and Carol to do it or somebody else to do it. Sometimes families will say, I think it's better if we're not even there because it'll just turn into an argument. The bottom line is you want to get the information out there. And
I think the best way to approach that is through slowly hearing it from Trish.
yeah, and how else can you get him some information? He already has the basics, but how else can he get exposed to additional information? Like, does he come to any kind of meetings? Would he come to anything? Would he watch this on TV? Would he watch this? Will he look at anything so he can
used
start to
come
understand?
meetings, and he loves coming to the meetings.
He does.
Yes.
Okay.
But he's just gotten himself into this where now, yeah, he's drinking.
Okay, this is closer to a solution than it sounds.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. It's just a matter of he just needs to get yanked back in and yanked back in and yanked back in. He's going to have to get yanked back in several more times. Be prepared for that because that's just how it is. But if he's down with that, that means there's a process of change that a person goes through where it isn't instantaneous. We all think it's instantaneous. It's kind of like an intervention was done on Rich, and he went to rehab and he lived happily ever after. That's what it looks like, right? But they don't understand that there were 5 or 6 other tries before the intervention, right? And the whole time I was thinking of this, and I was, you're trying it out, you're getting closer and closer, and it clicks in. But we all think it on TV. It looks like, it's a one-time event.
Right.
It's going to be some start, but if he's okay with meetings,
He's not really, because he has said he's not gonna come right now. How do we yank him back in?
Well, let me say this. He was supposed to start IOP tonight at Carolina Center. And I sent him a text and said, if you want to go, Dad and I will drive you. And he said, I'm not going.
yeah.
He said, I might go to the next one. They won't kick me out. So at least he's thinking, I might go to the next one. As opposed
Well, what do
to,
you mean, Carol? How do you yank him back in? That's the eternal question. You yank him like you do anyone else. Trish tries to talk to him. You guys keep talking to him. You keep setting boundaries. You'll have, you know what I mean? Like it'll be a process of you're already setting boundaries, but you might get to a point where you are like, no, the holidays might not be a time to do this, but like, no, you can't come over until you're doing IOP or, you know what I mean? Like you up the ante on it. Yep.
he worked with Dan. And this last time I told him, if you don't go to your meetings, because we've been paying him all along,
Yeah.
he's been working, but we've been paying him. And so this last time I said, if you don't go to your meetings, that stops, it's done, it's over.
Yeah.
So his reaction was, I don't give a shit. So
Well, do you remember, and I don't know if you've shared your story, Carol, but like, you know how you got to a point with your daughter where you were like, and you were literally like, you're not coming in the house,
Exactly.
and you know how like when you were there, you were there.
I was there.
You guys will get there too.
well, we cut it.
Yeah.
And he probably doesn't realize it, but come this week, which is a pay week, when it's not in his account, I'm sure we'll be hearing.
And that's what'll nudge a person back in.
And
That's what'll.
We kept our end of
Yeah.
the contract. You didn't. I told you. Now I know he's got enough money in his account to pay his rent and whatnot, but other than
It's a
that,
constant
Yeah.
struggle, and I know other people in here are dealing with this too. It's a constant struggle of your question of what can we do, what can we not do, how do we nudge the person. Sometimes great periods of time will go when you have no influence whatsoever. And then sometimes all of a sudden you'll get a phone call and it'll be like, hey, I got no money to pay the rent. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, we got some cards to play here. You kind of, you don't always have a lever to pull or a button to push. But if you prepare yourself and you keep your head together, then when the lever does come, But you get to a point like you got to with your daughter where you knew, from what you've told me anyway, it sounds like you knew that there was something different. You were like,
Well,
I'm
she
just
stole
not
it
gonna,
from us, so we weren't gonna.
I'm not gonna do this anymore.
Yeah.
And you guys are getting there.
Well, yeah, and I think, as I said, these past few nights have really made it.
There's nothing that's gonna get you there quicker than a mean person.
The money is done.
Yeah.
You know, and so he might come to us Friday and say, what the heck, and we're gonna say, well,
Yeah, in my family, I distinctly remember, like, my brother was like a mean, out of control kind of, like, whenever he was on his runs, he was just out of control. And I was always very, what's the word? I was more manipulative and charming, and I always never understood why he would do that. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not smart. Mom is not going to respond to that as well as she does to the charismatic, kind of like kind, you know, manipulative, go in the safe and get the savings bonds and go cash them in. Man, I remember when I did that. I literally thought my mother was going to kill me. It's scary to think that your mom's going to kill you. Well, maybe not kill me, but maim me in some kind of way. Yeah, but I never raised my temper. I never raised my voice. I always rolled, but he would always lose it. And the irony was, he wound up getting better quicker than I did, because all the attention was on that, right? It's easier to get pissed and set a boundary against a person who's punching holes in the drywall than it is against somebody who's pulling at your heartstrings.
and it's interesting, because he'll do that to me, like you were saying, last night he's sending me texts about the game, and in the same tone, I'm getting the mean, nasty, you know,
Yeah.
text, it's like,
Carolyn?
Do different drugs make them, because like this time last year, Keely was just a little, you know what? And now, anytime I'm around her, she's just like, okay, whatever, all right.
Different things affect people differently. The other thing is, you got to remember that, like, that how long they've been doing any particular thing and what's going on, it also impacts how they act. Age has a lot to do with it too. The truth is with Keely is this is the problem. This is the good news and the bad news. She's so young that she's going to bounce back quick from a lot of things. That's also the bad news, because she's going to bounce back quick from a lot of things. And so you're just going to be a crazy mom who's just like over the top, and this is just like, you know what I mean? Like, when you're 35 and you're 40, it gets hard, man.
I can't.
You can't. I mean, I have a person that I work with, and we literally were just talking about this. Like, you just have to hang the spikes up at some point and retire from the football game. I mean, I can't.
mean, at 20, we don't
Yeah.
provide her with anything.
But at
She's
20
living with her
and
friends.
21, you can find a way to make it with nothing. I mean, I'm gonna tell you, like, I left the house at like 17 and never went back home. And sometimes had an apartment, sometimes didn't. And I don't ever remember being jammed up about it at all.
I just keep thinking eventually she'll run out.
Well, you get older, that starts to go away.
Yeah.
You know, like, no question about it. Like, it's one thing to do it when you're 20, 21, 22. You start to get older, your friend group starts to change a little bit. You start to
At 25,
realize
you're not under the radar.
you're not under the radar anymore. The stuff you used to do gets old.
I guarantee he doesn't have a friend who he could call and say, can I come live with you, that would say yes.
Well, she
Yeah.
keeps making new friends, at Waffle House.
Well, that's another thing that you
Just
can
gives
do.
me the creeps.
But that'll also go away,
Yeah.
Carolyn. That'll also go away. Like, you will. It's cute and cool and kind of like, oh, you're 20. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you do when you're 20. You hitchhike across the country. You do all kinds of weird stuff, but not whenever you're 30. Not when you're 25. You know. That's the challenge. Is how do you guys as parents get through till they hit that, right? And this time of the year is the most challenging time of the year because of the family time, the Christmas family time, right? That's all you hear, that's all you think about. So it's even more pronounced right now. It's more difficult right now.
So when you leave here tonight, what is your greatest concern, fear, when he calls you angry, threatening, not gonna do anything?
I don't have a fear about that. It is what it is, and I will not,
Respond.
no.
What are you
Tell
gonna
him
do
you
on
can't
Friday
talk.
when he's mad about the money?
Well, then he's gotta do something. I mean, you know.
So one of the things to do, we talked about this last week, is when you're in any of these conversations, this is any of us dealing with a kid, and a husband or a wife too, you just want to stay calm and you just want to stick to your guns. The shorter the conversation, the better. So if anybody calls, whether it's about money or it's about whatever, it's about, hey mom, come get me, take me out, or hey, give me some money for this or give me some money for that. You just can't do that. We told you this is how it was. You don't want to ever try to talk the person into agreeing with you. Do you guys get that part? Don't try to convince him or her that this is the right thing to do. Just simply say, we told you this is how it was going to be. I need to go now. You got to remember, you're not going to win the argument. Remember the picture I had of my 6-year-old when I always say, anytime you do boundaries, people are pissed. You want to keep that in mind. You know you're doing the right thing if they're angry.
Yes.
You're doing the right thing if you're setting boundaries. They're angry, and you don't want to try to get into this thing where you make them understand why you did it. You just simply want to say, like, look, this is the way it is. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I got to go now.
I thought of, should we remind him, this is coming up, there will not be a pay, and then I kind of came to, no, I'm just not gonna say anything.
Just don't say anything.
When it,
You can always say you did, and they just didn't.
You have to. The other thing you have,
just
and
gonna
this is
find out on Friday.
this is really, really hard to do. But you kind of have to let the game come to you a little bit. You have to be patient enough through this process to not try to like make the call and say, hey, do you know this? Like, let them call you.
Right.
Let them bring it to you. Don't try to like anticipate.
Right today, that's not an issue.
It's not an issue right now, and you don't know because you'll prepare for things that sometimes won't even come up, and then the things that do come up are things you didn't even think of. The other thing I wanted to make sure I say is this is the Christmas time when all the Hallmark movie bullshit is on, right? And so don't fall into the idea that this is how it's supposed to be, because that's really not how it's supposed to be. This is how it's supposed to be. I don't know if you ever saw this movie, right? So this is closer to the truth. All right? If you ever want to, I don't know if you've seen the classic Christmas movie. What is this called? Vacation. Yeah, Christmas Vacation, Chevy Chase. You know, we get into this situation this time of the year, and one of the things that'll make people feel really, really down is this idea of it's a family time, everybody else is together, everybody else is having a great time. I want to tell you that it's screwed up from top to bottom, okay? Everybody's getting together, yeah, fine. But you know what? The tension is there in every situation. Alcohol is involved at all these Christmas parties, and, you know, many times it gets out of control. It isn't this nice, clean little box that we want to think it is. And the reason why that's important to talk about when it comes to families dealing with substance use or mental health, we've talked about this before. You have the stress of the situation, which sucks. And then to put more stress around, like, well, what's wrong with us? Why isn't our family? Understand that it's just the same in the house down the road. But it's just not going to get talked about. People don't talk about this stuff. Yes?
I was here on Saturday and I sat in on the recovery meeting. And it was interesting to hear
The noon meeting or the night
noon
meeting? Okay.
Because Taka was leading it, and she was, you know, well, how about Christmas? How are we going to handle Christmas? And to hear, I mean, think about what they're saying about us. I mean,
Yeah.
and I sat like this because I thought, you assholes.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's their meeting, so I kept my mouth shut.
Yeah, because
Like
I wasn't there, but it was probably something like what? Like it'll be tense and my
people
mom's
are
a
gonna
trigger.
ask you questions you don't want to answer, and
Yeah.
you know, just let it. You know, she kept saying you gotta just let it go. And
Who was facilitating it?
Haka.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, it was wonderful because several people spoke up. Well, my mom's gonna blah blah blah, and I'm sitting there going, okay. So now I know what not to do because that's what they.
And the way that you're coached whenever you're in recovery to deal with holidays is that it's your recovery. So if I'm coaching Frank, it's your recovery. It's not your family's responsibility. You need to figure out whether or not you're even going to go, and you need to figure out how you're going to handle it when you get there. Don't expect your mom to change, and don't expect your dad to change because it's not their job. But they will talk about it at a recovery meeting without question. It'll be the topic for the next 2 weeks. Right? It's been the topic probably since Thanksgiving, to tell you the truth.
I mean, I would.
It'll be the
encourage
topic.
anyone to
It'll
go
be
to
the
one
topic through the
because
new year.
It was neat for me anyway to hear what they were all saying.
It's interesting that you say it's your recovery and not the family, because one of the things that we did and we were advised to do is make sure there's no alcohol in the house. If he's living with you, no alcohol in the house. Well, we don't drink anyway,
Yeah.
so it was not a big
Yeah.
deal, but, you know, we made sure to say, Jeff, look, we got it all out, you know, we're not Thanksgiving, we're telling the family,
Yeah.
nothing here, nothing,
Did
whatever,
you bring anything?
you know, so,
Well, I got sober 19 years ago when it was like they didn't even involve the family. You know what I mean? Like it was like you didn't even. My wife got like a conversation, a 15-minute conversation that basically was like keep going down on and kick him out if he drinks. You know what I mean? It was a different world then, and so we were very much conditioned to like. And I remember how it went down with my family was I'm not coming if there. And I had no malice in my heart whatsoever. I was like, but Mom, I'm not coming if there's alcohol. Because there was, I mean, I didn't even imagine that there could be a family event without alcohol. You know what I mean? But she didn't have it. She shut it down. And it was probably about 18 months, 2 years before there was alcohol ever. And I remember she asked me, because I totally quit thinking about it. You know what I mean? Like I would just go, there could have been alcohol. After about 6 months, I probably would have been fine.
you didn't think about drinking? Is that what you're saying?
No, what happened was when I first came out of rehab and I'm doing my thing, when it was like, I think the first holiday I was faced with would have been like Easter, because it was February, right? So maybe like Easter or maybe like the summer holidays and I said, I'm not coming if there's alcohol. There'd be like a 4th of July party. So she said there's no alcohol. And then I kept coming to all these events and there kept being no alcohol, but I never thought about it. After about 6 months, there could have been alcohol and it wouldn't have bothered me. Do you follow what I'm saying? But she kept saying no alcohol.
Right.
Then probably about 18 months in or 2 years in, I remember she called me and said, there's going to be alcohol. Is that okay with you? And I had never even, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's fine.
Right.
Now there's alcohol at everything. You
Right,
get it?
right.
But there was like in her head, it was clearly a big deal.
Right.
A much bigger deal than it was to me. Do you get it?
Right.
Like it was not, I could have been around alcohol probably at 90 days on and not had a problem. Because I mean, I knew about 90 days. I could just tell by the way I felt. I could tell by where I was at, like some of the therapy I'd done. I'm like, and I say this now, I'm not supposed to say this because it's a day at a time, but I'll never drink again in my life. I knew that too. Do you know what I mean? Like it was weird, man. I just knew that wasn't what I was going to be doing.
To be as bad as alcohol is, as hard as it is to get, I had wanted to not drink for 10 years before
Yeah.
I ever did it.
Yeah.
So I consider myself very lucky.
That you got there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I see people who never.
So you knew that it was a problem, and this is
yeah.
good. This is very instructive. Like you knew for 10 years. Yeah. There are things that have to happen for the person to finally make the decision. And some of it's completely out of your hands. You know?
What about Vivitrol for him?
I think all of that is a good option. I think some of those questions are way too premature.
Okay.
What you have is you have a situation where it'd have to start with the person making a decision to, the next step would be either to go back to IOP or to go to another longer term program, and then you start asking questions like
Yeah, 'cause
Vivitrol.
I asked him about the Vivitrol, and he said, I'm not doing that. He said it's $1,500 a shot, and I'm not doing that.
I think you should quit asking about stuff like that, and I think that you're already on the right track, and you want to. It's like let the game come to him and his next move. What's his next move?
Okay.
You're already taking the steps with the money. That's perfect. You know, you get to a point where he's going to call you and say, "What am I supposed to do now?" Now you have him where you want him. Do you get it?
And that's where we can start saying,
Yeah. Remember we talked about this, and if you do what you need to do, we'll do what we need to do. And but keep it short and get off the phone. You're already doing this. Hang up if it gets crazy.
because our thought was if he starts doing what he needs to do, I mean, he has to get a job. They told him at Black Bear not to work for like
3 months or something.
I'm
like that.
surprised Black Bear didn't recommend like sober living or something.
Oh, they did.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Oh, they suggested he stay there for their next step program.
Okay.
Or sober living, and he said, nope, it's Thanksgiving, I want to go home, I want to go to wrestling.
I
That
gotcha.
blew up 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And this and that. Oh, it was him. He wanted,
Yeah. Okay.
and he never did anything when he came home. He went to one meeting with his ex-girlfriend, and that was it.
Yeah, which is kind of classic too, right?
Yeah.
We talk about that a lot in here. Treatment superstar,
Yeah.
getting high on the way home. I mean, that happens to kids, to people too. So, Well, hey, listen, we are going to wrap this thing up a little early tonight
Thank you.
because I have to go do some things related to Christmas.
Better buy your wife a Christmas present.
And I will be here next Monday too. So spread the word and let people know that like it'll be a regular group next Monday. Next Monday that is not New Year's Eve, is it?
No.
No.
Okay.
Tuesday, Thursday.
Okay. So I'll be here next Monday. We'll do a regular group next Monday. So please spread the word. I'm assuming people tonight might not even have known what was going on.
So what do you do, quick question?
Yes.
If she is not invited, we've just not seen her for about 2 weeks.
Have you talked to her?
No,
Okay. Have you tried?
no.
Okay.
We did the family meeting last Thursday, she didn't show, Hubert tried to contact her, she's not answered him, I haven't contacted her. What do we do if cause like Hubert said, she was supposed to get kicked out of roommates over the weekend, I don't know if that happened or not. And Hubert's like, you need to be prepared, what if she just shows up, what are you gonna do? I mean, I'm
So-
not, just not answer the door, I don't know.
So you can handle it. First of all, don't feel pressure. This is very important. It's a really good question. It's very important. Do not feel pressure that you got to get it right. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Like you're allowed to let her come in and have something to eat and talk to her for a little bit, but the bottom line is you can't stay here. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, she
But
knows she can't stay there. unless
so
she's
so
alone.
you don't have to feel like you got to have it all figured out.
Okay.
Who knows what's going to go? This goes back to this principle of wait till it comes to you too, because understand that like if she comes in a circumstance like that, who knows? Maybe you'll be like taking her to the Phoenix Center for detox or something. You just don't know what would get her on your front porch.
Yeah.
You are
Well,
really
last
doing
year her clean day is December 27th. So, I mean,
this time of the year is a time of the year where people will.
she showed up at 4 a.m. in my front yard calling me, wouldn't knock on the door because she didn't want to wake everybody
And
else
so
up.
you say, like, let's get you into, and you call the hotline and you say, where can we get her? You know what I mean? You've been through that part before. You don't have to, you can, even if she just wants to come in and you like hang out with her for a minute, you already set your boundaries. The other thing is that you're doing, and I only know this because I see you here in the program a lot, like you're working on yourself. You know, I know that. It's clear that you're taking care of yourself and you're going to a lot of groups and stuff. You want to keep doing that.
Okay.
But I think if she shows, don't do anything other than say, come in here and sit down for a minute and then we're gonna make a phone call, Keely.
Okay.
She knows the
You
deal.
want to get clean?
See, there's a reason, Carolyn, that she's not calling you every
But
day.
she's so whacked out now. I mean, the last time I saw her, she like passed out. And I mean, we could not get her awake. It was
Where were you?
at the pedicure place. We were getting pedicures
How long ago was that?
2.5 weeks ago.
Okay.
And I mean, thank God for Hubert, he literally was 5 minutes away. I texted him and said, we have an emergency situation here. I don't know what to do. And he called me and said, where are you? And I told him, and I said, no, I don't want to take you away. Just tell me what to do. He said, no, I'm less than 5 minutes away. I mean, he's doing this to her, and he finally hit some kind of nerve or something on her hand. And I mean, she just, whoa.
What did she say about that?
What the fuck are you doing here?
To Hubert?
Yeah, and Hubert said it was
It was
me or
fine.
the cops.
Yeah.
And she said, well, why did you call him? And I said, it was him or the cops. And Hubert looked at her and he said, look, we need to get out of here. These people want you out of here.
Yeah.
And so he took her outside and they had a conversation and I just stayed inside.
Wow. So next time maybe it is the cops, right?
Well, that's what Hubert said. He said,
Yeah.
you know, maybe, and Michelle was kind of like, why didn't you call the cops? And Hubert was like, but if we call the cops, then they're going to call the EMTs and she's not in any physical danger, so they're not going to take her to the ER.
Right, they're not going to do anything.
And we went through all of her crap. I mean,
Yeah.
she had a pipe and she had a little bit of stuff on plastic that was white. He said she didn't have enough on her to get arrested, right?
Yeah.
So
It wouldn't have
what's
done
the advantage
anything.
of doing that? They'd have talked to her and,
You're right.
you know. And I mean, when I took her home, it was the same thing.
Yeah.
She fell asleep. I went and knocked on the door. I didn't even know whose house I was at. I just took her back where I picked her up at.
I think you have to try to not anticipate, and you have to know that like when that goes down, you can make the call like you did there, and that you're going to find the best answer to a situation that's unpredictable as can be.
Okay.
You know, and none of this, and you got to keep coming to these groups, and you got to keep talking to people, and you got to keep keep your head in the game and keep praying and keep thinking, you know, in the moment, because it's just too much to try to figure out, guys. It's too complex. But you're on the right track. And I wish there were better answers than that. I wish we had the black van up and running. We go and we had
I
the
really
blow
think
gun,
you
and we
should
had
do
the,
that.
we had the darts that knock people out. We'll take them, and you know, I'm only half kidding about that. So.
Redo that, Brian.
Yep.
I
All right,
really
guys,
think
we're gonna wrap it up for tonight. You have a wonderful holiday, and I will see you next Monday. Have a
Don't
good.
hire an appliance or something for the kitchen.